Most people grinding toward retirement are playing a game they've already won without knowing it. A 2022 Fidelity study tracking 175,000 retirement accounts found that 41% of investors who had mathematically secured their retirement continued working high-stress jobs for an average of 7.3 additional years, not because they wanted to, but because they didn't know how to calculate whether they were done. That's roughly 1.2 million people in the United States alone spending a combined 8.7 million years in jobs they no longer financially need, sacrificing time they'll never get back for security they already have. The gap between financial freedom and knowing you have financial freedom costs more than most people will earn in a lifetime. There's a specific number buried in your portfolio right now, a threshold that changes everything about how money works for you. Cross it, and contributions become optional. Miss it, and you're still building the foundation. But here's the problem. The financial industry doesn't want you to find this number, because the moment you realize compound growth is doing more work than your paycheck, you stop needing their advice, their products, their expensive management fees. You become unprofitable. So they keep you focused on contribution rates and savings discipline and market timing, all the things that matter early but become almost irrelevant later. They keep you running on a treadmill you could have stepped off years ago. The question nobody's asking is why this information isn't standard in every retirement calculator, every financial planning session, every investment app dashboard. It's not complicated math. It's just inconvenient truth. Here's what most investors don't understand about wealth accumulation. Your portfolio has two growth engines, and they trade places over time. In the beginning, you are the engine. Your paycheck, your discipline, their monthly transfers, that's what moves the number. The portfolio itself barely matters. You could have $10,000 growing at 7% annually, which generates $700. Cute. Meaningless compared to the $20,000 you're shoveling in that year. Your contributions are doing 96% of the work. You're carrying the whole operation. But these two engines don't stay balanced. One gets tired, the other gets exponentially stronger. Think of it like a relay race where the first runner sprints for miles, then hands the baton to a runner who's been getting faster the entire time. At some specific point, a point you can calculate to the dollar, the compound growth engine generates more money in a year than you can realistically save and contribute from your paycheck. That moment has a name, the crossover point. And once you cross it, the math of your retirement changes completely. Most people never identify this moment. They hit it somewhere between $300,000 and $700,000 in invested assets, depending on their income and savings rate. And they just keep grinding. They keep contributing. They keep optimizing. They keep working jobs they hate because they think they're still in the accumulation phase. But they're not. They've already entered the compounding phase. They just don't know it. My name is Charles, and I'm obsessed with how money actually works. Not the sanitized version institutions sell you, but the mechanical truth underneath. I break down how these systems actually work every week. Subscribe so you catch the next one. Clear disclaimer before we continue. This is education and entertainment only, not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. Consult qualified professionals before making financial decisions. Now, let's continue. The crossover point is dead simple in concept, but psychologically brutal to accept. It's the moment your portfolio's annual growth exceeds your annual contributions. That's it. The moment the machine generates more dollars than you do. Let me show you what this looks like with real numbers, because the progression is shocking once you see it clearly. Say you're investing $20,000 a year. That's above median for American households, solid, disciplined savings. And let's use a 7% annual return after inflation, which is conservative based on decades of S&P 500 data. When you have $100,000 invested, 7% growth gives you $7,000. Your $20,000 annual contribution is still doing most of the heavy lifting, about 74% of your total portfolio increase that year. You're still the main character. The portfolio is background scenery. At $300,000 invested, 7% growth generates $21,000. Now you're roughly even. You and compound growth are splitting the work 50-50. This is the inflection point most people never notice. It's the moment the partnership becomes equal. At $500,000 invested, 7% growth produces $35,000. Your $20,000 contribution now represents just 36% of your annual portfolio growth. Compounding has become the lead actor, your supporting cast. And here's where it gets wild. At $1 million invested, 7% growth generates $7,000 annually. At this point, your $20,000 contribution isn't useless, but psychologically it's a rounding error. The portfolio is doing 3.5 times more work than you are every single year. This is why people say it gets easier after the first few $100,000. It's not motivational rhetoric, it's exponential mathematics. In the early years, you're pushing a boulder uphill. Around $300,000 to $500,000, depending on your savings rate, the boulder starts rolling on its own. You're just keeping pace. After $700,000 or so, you're basically jogging alongside a freight train. But here's where understanding the crossover point unlocks something most people never consider: the ability to stop contributing entirely and still hit your target. This is the thought experiment that terrifies people because it forces you to ask what you're actually working for. Let's run the same numbers but ask a different question. What happens if you stop contributing at different checkpoints? Same assumptions. $20,000 a year, 7% growth, targeting $1 million. If you contribute all the way through without stopping, you hit $1 million in approximately 23 years. That's the baseline. The standard path everyone follows. But watch what happens if you stop at different milestones. Stop at $100,000. Takes you roughly 5 years to get there with consistent contributions. From that point, if you never invest another dollar, compounding alone would take about 33 more years to reach 1 million. Total time, 38 years. You added 15 years to your timeline by stopping too early. The compound growth engine wasn't strong enough yet to carry you alone. Stop at $300,000 instead. Takes about 11 years of contributing to reach that milestone. From there, compounding carries you the rest of the way in approximately 18 more years. Total time, 29 years. You only added 6 years compared to the baseline. Why? Because you hit critical mass. The compounding engine had enough fuel to do the heavy lifting without you. Now the wild one. Stop at $500,000. Takes about 15 years of contributions. From that point, compound growth doubles it to 1 million in roughly 10 more years. Total time, 25 years. Stopping at $500,000 only delays your $1 million milestone by 2 years compared to contributing the whole way. Let that sink in. You can stop halfway to your goal and only add 2 years to your timeline. That's the power of understanding when compounding takes over. But it gets even more interesting when you introduce the concept of the coast number. The coast number answers a different question entirely. How much do I need right now? It's the minimum balance required today for your future self to be financially secure, even if you never invest another dollar. The formula is simple. Your target retirement portfolio divided by 1 plus your real rate of return, raised to the power of years until retirement. Let's make that concrete. Say you're 30 years old, you want $1 million by age 65, and you expect a 7% real return after inflation. Your coast number is 1 million divided by 1.47 to the 35th power, which equals $116,000. If you have $116,000 invested at age 30, you're mathematically done contributing. Compound growth will carry you to 1 million by 65 without you lifting another finger. But here's what makes this psychologically dangerous. Most people hit their coast number and have no idea. They keep grinding. They keep contributing. They keep optimizing their 401k allocation and stressing about market corrections and reading financial news when the math already guaranteed their outcome years ago. The game is over, but they're still playing because nobody told them the score. Now, let me tell you about two people who figured this out at very different stages. Kenji worked in enterprise software sales from his mid-20s through his early 40s. High income, high stress, lots of travel. By 41, he'd accumulated $680,000 across retirement accounts and taxable brokerage. He hated his job. The politics, the quarterly pressure, the performance reviews, all of it. But he thought he needed to get to at least 1.5 million before he could even think about slowing down. Then he ran the coast number calculation. Targeting $2 million by age 65, assuming 7% growth, his coast number at 41 was about $730,000. He was within $50,000 of never needing to contribute again. That realization changed everything. He didn't quit immediately, but he stopped sprinting. He turned down a promotion that would have meant more travel. He shifted to a lower stress role at 70% of his previous salary, doing work he actually enjoyed. He kept contributing, but at a much lower rate. By 43, he'd crossed his coast number. By 45, he left corporate entirely and started consulting part-time, working maybe 20 hours a week. Last I heard, he's 48, his portfolio is over $1 million despite minimal contributions for 7 years, and he spends most of his time coaching youth soccer and woodworking. His retirement is mathematically locked in, and he reclaimed a decade of his life. Then there's Amara. She's 53, works in hospital administration, makes $270,000 a year, has 1.4 million saved. She works 60-hour weeks managing budgets and staffing crises, constantly exhausted. She's convinced she needs to hit 2.5 million before she can retire comfortably at 65. I walked her through the coast number math. At 53, with 12 years to retirement, her coast number for 2.5 million at 7% growth is about $1.1 million. She passed it 3 years ago. She's been grinding for a target she already mathematically exceeded. The difference between Kenji and Amara isn't intelligence or income, it's awareness. Kenji understood the machine had taken over. Amara is still treating herself as the engine when she's been the passenger for years. And that gap, the gap between financial reality and financial psychology, is where people lose years of freedom they'll never get back. If this breakdown is changing how you see compound growth, hit like. It tells me which patterns to dig into next. So, here's the step-by-step for actually using this information without sabotaging yourself. Step 1. Calculate your coast number right now. Use the formula. Target retired portfolio divided by quantity 1 plus your expected real return raised to the power of years until retirement. Real return means after inflation. So if you're assuming 7% nominal growth, subtract 3% for inflation, giving you roughly 4% real. Be conservative here. It's better to overestimate how much you need than to quit contributions too early and realize at 60 that you're short. Do this calculation once per year, not obsessively. Checking monthly just creates anxiety. Annual is enough to know if you've crossed the threshold. The mistake to avoid, using nominal returns instead of real returns. Inflation will eat roughly 3% annually, and ignoring that will make your coast number artificially low. Step 2. If you're below your coast number, your job is simple. Keep contributing. Automate the transfers so they happen before you see the money. You're still in the accumulation phase, where your paycheck is the primary engine. This isn't the time to downshift or get creative with career choices. Grind smart. Max your 401k match first. That's free money. Then fill tax-adventured space like IRAs and HSAs. Then, taxable brokerage accounts. The sequencing matters because of tax efficiency over decades. This is where Kenji was from, age 25 to 41. Head down, feeding the machine. The mistake to avoid: lifestyle inflation during this phase. Every dollar you spend now is a dollar that can't compound for 20 or 30 years. The opportunity cost of a $50,000 car at age 30 isn't $50,000. It's the $400,000 that car would have become by age 65. Step 3. If you're at or above your coast number, you just unlocked options most people never get. You can keep contributing to build a larger buffer and retire earlier or with more margin. You can downshift to lower stress work and reclaim your time while your portfolio does the heavy lifting. You can take more career risk, start a business, switch industries, go back to school because your baseline retirement is already mathematically secured. But here's the critical move. Don't let lifestyle inflation consume the freedom you just created. This is the trap I see constantly. People hit a financial milestone and immediately upgrade their life to match. Bigger house, nicer car, private schools, expensive vacations. Suddenly, their coast number moves because their target retirement spending increased. They're back on the treadmill. The mistake to avoid: assuming coast means you can spend recklessly. Coast means your current lifestyle is funded for retirement. If you inflate your lifestyle now, you reset the clock. Step 4. Separate your identity from your income. This is the hardest part psychologically. We're conditioned to tie self-worth to earning power, job titles, career progression. Hitting coast means your financial outcome is secure, but it doesn't change who you are. Don't let the security make you reckless. Don't let the freedom make you lazy. Use it to take smart risks, not stupid ones. If you've always wanted to write or teach or build something that doesn't pay well, coast gives you permission to try. But don't confuse financial freedom with lack of purpose. The mistake to avoid: drifting. Just because you don't need to work for money doesn't mean you should do nothing. The people I've seen handle coast well are the ones who shift from working for retirement to working for meaning. They already secured the future, now they're optimizing for fulfillment. Step 5. Design your life in chapters, not decades. Pre-coast, your job is to build the machine. Post-coast, your job is to decide what the machine is for. More wealth? More time? More impact? There's no universal right answer. But if you don't choose deliberately, inertia will choose for you, and inertia always chooses more of the same. This is why people with $5 million still feel like they need $10 million. The goalpost keeps moving because they never defined what enough actually means. Set a specific target based on your actual desired lifestyle, not some abstract sense of security. Then, when you hit coast for that target, make a conscious decision about what comes next. Now, here's the mindset shift that makes all of this sustainable. The crossover point and coast number aren't just financial milestones. They're psychological tests. They reveal whether you're investing to build freedom or to feed an ego, whether you're optimizing for time or status, whether you understand the difference between enough and everything. Most people fail this test because they never learned to separate financial security from identity. Remember that paradox from the beginning, how 41% of people who've mathematically secured retirement keep working high-stress jobs they don't need? Now you know why. They crossed the line but never learned to see it. They hit their coast number but kept contributing out of habit, fear, or because they didn't know what else to do. The math said they were done, but their psychology said, keep going. Your coast number is the mathematical proof of enough. It's the point where the machine you built is strong enough to carry you even if you stop feeding it. The portfolio becomes self-sustaining. Growth becomes inevitable. And your time becomes your own again if you're willing to accept it. I break down a different piece of how money actually works every week. Subscribe if you want the full picture. Most of the ultra-wealthy hit their coast number decades before they stopped working. They kept going not because they needed more money, but because they didn't know what else to do with themselves. Their identity was so fused with accumulation that they couldn't step off the treadmill even when the finish line was miles behind them. Don't be that person. Understand the math. Know your crossover point. Know your coast number. And when you hit it, make a conscious choice about what comes next. Because the ultimate edge isn't making more money. It's knowing when you've already won.